All right, here are the tunes. Have a great show.
Great, thanks.
It's time for Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright. Have you ever wondered if there's more to life than you're currently living? Then Success Profiles Radio is the program for you. Every week, we'll explore different aspects of success and how to apply them to your life. Guests will come from many different backgrounds, including expertise in leadership, business, relationships, careers, networking, health, overcoming adversity, and much more. Every show is a dose of inspiration. This is Success Profiles Radio. And now, here's your host, Brian K. Wright.
Hello and welcome to Success Profiles Radio. I'm your host, Brian K. Wright, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. I'm honored that you chose to spend part of your day with me here, and this is going to be a fantastic and amazing show. I will introduce my guest in a moment, and I promise we're going to have some fun and we're going to learn a lot along the way. I do want to take a minute or two to share some things I've been learning and thinking about lately, and I usually do this every single week. I cannot believe how quickly this year is gone. And before long, people will be discussing New Year's resolutions. However, my advice is that if you're going to write down your goals for next year, do it right now. If you wait until January 1st, you are already behind the curve. Think about it like this. A sports car will not move at top speed at the starting line. It has to ramp up its speed beforehand. If you really want to achieve everything you want next year, plan it now so that you have everything in place that you need by then. So that's my best suggestion, and I sure hope it helps. And if you've not picked up my latest book, it's called The Greatest Lessons I Learned from My Coach. It's on Amazon. And I, along with several people who collaborated chapters on this book, shared the greatest lessons we learned from our coaches. It's always better to learn from many, many people than it is to learn and make all the mistakes by yourself. So once again, that book is called The Greatest Lessons I Learned from My Coach, and it's on Amazon. My very special guest this week is Alan Porter. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's not your typical financial strategist. His journey was forged through decades of service, personal loss, and an unrelenting mission to educate and protect others. A retired Black Hawk helicopter instructor pilot with 21 years in the U.S. Army, he discovered his true calling when a life insurance policy saved his family from financial ruin after the tragic passing of his daughter-in-law. Today, as CEO of Strategic Wealth Strategies, he leads a powerhouse team of CPAs, tax attorneys, and elite financial professionals dedicated to delivering tax-free retirement solutions and bulletproof financial strategies. A certified tax and business advisor, certified business fiduciary, and published authority featured in over 1,100 publications, he has spoken at Harvard, West Point, and appeared on major media networks like ESPN, Fox, ABC, and CBS. His best-selling book is called Tax-Free Retirement Solution. And that tells us that true financial security isn't about gambling with the market. It's about protecting your future with knowledge and strategy. We have so much to unwrap and unravel today. I cannot wait to get started with my very special guest, Alan Porter. Alan, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Well, Brian, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Fantastic. So the first question I normally ask is, did you envision early on that you'd be where you are now?
Brian, I had no idea I'd be doing this. It'd be the furthest thing from my mind. I retired in 1993. I was a Black Hawk instructor pilot for 18th Airborne Corps. And I tell people I had a safe landing for every takeoff, and I dodged all the bullets. And I had a great career. And I had a passion for what I was doing. I love serving my country. I love flying. And I had a successful real estate mortgage business up until about 2008. Like you said, when some tragic things happened to me. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My son lived in Little Rock, Arkansas with his wife, Lynn. She was 39. They had two little girls. They were 7 and 4. And we went out to Little Rock in Christmas of 2009. Well, there was a big problem. My son had been 100% disabled for over 3 years and still not getting his disability.
Oh,
They hired an attorney, finally got a disability in the summer of 2010. But you know that one day they say changed your life. Well, January 5th, 2010 changed my life. Lynn, his wife, called me up. She said, Alan, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and they've given me 6 months to live. Of course, we were all devastated. But I was like 99% of the people out there that thought life insurance was a death product that you had to die to benefit from it. Well, little did I know, Brian, she had a terminal illness rider on her life insurance policy that let her access the death benefit, which was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, completely tax-free, which I knew nothing about, within 1 year of diagnosis. And if it had not been for that, my son would be bankrupt, and it took a huge financial strain off of me because there's no money coming in. I was helping them out, but I didn't know for how long. Well, to make a long story short, she died a year later, and I moved my son back here to Fayetteville, where he lived behind me. But my troubles didn't stop there. My daughter, who's an oncology nurse, her husband's a doctor, had given birth to my third grandson. And about a month after that, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was very bad. We didn't think she was going to live. Well, thank God she's 12 years cancer free right now.
Wow.
But 2023, she was contracted Graves' disease and was diagnosed with thyroid eye condition. And there's only one treatment, Brian. It's a drug, I hope I pronounce this right, called Trapeza. There's 8 transfusions. The first one cost like $32,000. The last one was almost $250,000. Well, that was in May of 2023. The problem is January of 2024, the thyroid eye condition came back. She went to the doctor in February. The doctor told her, Nicole, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do until you go blind, and then we can operate. I'm thinking, what a prognosis. So we tried to get her to Duke University for some type of study, but she didn't qualify for that because she took the Trapeza. We did get her into the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. She was up there for about 4 days of testing and consultations, but basically there's nothing they can do for her either. They've got a drug that, believe it or not, it's more expensive than the Trapeza. It's not backed by the insurance, and it may be only 50% effective. So she's living day by day in complete misery. And we're just praying something can be done for her. But these things have happened in my life. And when I started studying insurance products and what they do, I just want to educate people out there. I'm very, very passionate about education. And what I do is I show people the financial strategies the wealthy and the banking institutions have been using for years. Because 99% of the people I talk to include CPAs, financial advisors, and attorneys, have no idea what I'm talking about. And we even discussed many of these things I'm talking about in our talk right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting you brought up the terminal illness rider, because I was going to ask you later about viatical settlements. Was that what this was, where you could take part of your death benefit early if you needed it, or was that a completely different situation?
No, that's an entirely different thing. Viatical settlements are basically for people that are in retirement age, as far as I know.
Mm.
But she still needed the death benefit. Like I said, they borrowed money from that to make up their house payments and their credit cards and everything, and they had everything taken care of. So they didn't lose their house, they didn't lose their credit or anything. But when she died, the rest of that death benefit paid out, and that's give my son a chance to buy a house here right behind us, and also help benefit the girls. But insurance products. You always hear Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey say, well, insurance is a terrible investment. Well, first off, it's not an investment. Insurance products are an asset class all their own, Brian. Mm-hmm. There's no other financial product. They're hundreds of years old. And there's no other financial product that paid dividends during the Great Depression. There's no other financial product, when constructed properly in the cash value life insurance, whether it's whole life or index universal life or fixed index annuities, that can give you the protection, the performance, and the guarantees and the safety for your family. I've been doing this for a decade and a half, and there's nothing out there that compares with properly constructed insurance products.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about your military background for a little while. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's kind of funny too, because back in 1972, if you remember the draft, I had a 13 draft number. And I was just out of high school working. My wife graduated, and we're married. She's pregnant, and the recruiter comes up to me. He says, "I got some good news and I got some bad news." I said, "Well, what's the good news?" "I know the bad news. I got a 13 draft number." He says, "Well, I can keep you out of Vietnam." I said, "Oh, yeah, right. How are you going to do that?" "Well, you've got to go combat arms, either armor, artillery, or infantry." I said, "Oh, so you're going to keep me out of Vietnam?" He said, "Yeah. We just took the 4th Infantry Division out of Vietnam and put them at Fort Carson, Colorado." And I'm originally from Nebraska, and I'm coming from a town of 1,300 people. I'd never been out of the state in my life before. Mm-hmm. And it was only 360 miles. So I said, well, put me in armor. I didn't want to do with infantry or artillery. So I became a tank commander. And it's really funny. I was there at Fort Carson. I was guaranteed for 3 years. And we're out in tank gunnery. We're out there for about a month. And I'm living in the back of if you remember the old Willys Jeep trailer, that's where my sleeping bag was at. There's no cover, no nothing. We lived in the elements. And been out there for about 2 weeks, filled with dirt and grass. I hadn't had a shower. This helicopter lands, and pilot gets out. I said, man, I want his job. He never goes to the field. Man, was I mistaken. He had his Ray-Ban glasses on, his mustache. But I put in for flight school, warrant officer flight school. 6 months later, I was accepted. I've done some great things. And when I was flying my career, I was part of the United States helicopter team. We won the United States helicopter championships, in turn qualified. And we went over to Piotrków, Trebanowski, Poland, and we beat the Russians for the World Helicopter Championships.
Wow.
That was a big, big accomplishment in my life. And I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget the national anthem. Every time the national anthem is played, Brian, I'm very emotional about it.
Yeah.
Because, you're sitting there on the top tier. The Germans are second, and the Russians are third.
Wow.
And the Polish people absolutely loved us. It's something I'll never forget.
Amazing. So what did the military teach you about succeeding in business?
Well, when I was in the military, I read one manual. It's whatever helicopter I flew at the time, or tank. I flew OH-50H Hueys, and I've ended up flying Blackhawks for the last 12 years. And I knew every nut and bolt, every stability augmentation system, flight path stabilization, emergency procedures, limitations. And Brian, I've had many emergencies, but I knew what was going on with that helicopter if something went wrong. And I was able to get the helicopter down without loss of life or loss of equipment. And I create that same passion for what I do right now. I read probably 4 to 5 books a month. I attend many, many seminars. I'm a self-motivated person, and I'm very passionate about what I do because of what insurance products have done for my family. And now all my clients that I have, because they don't know what they don't know.
Right. Exactly. We've got less than 2 minutes to our first break. What do you think is the highest value skill anyone can learn?
The highest skill is actually yourself. You got to improve yourself. I mean, I tell people this all the time. If you're not happy with something, it's nobody's fault but your own.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do something to change that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have a plan. I don't care whether it's in marriage, retirement, college planning, whatever. You've got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, make one up. And if you do have a plan, improve on it. But improve your education at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think is the most expensive mistake you've ever made? We got a minute to the break.
Well, I made a $120,000 mistake when I got caught in a Ponzi scheme.
Oh.
And I did my due diligence. I talked to business owners that were in this thing. It ended up being $32 million in losses for all of us.
Oh, no. That's awful. I'm so sorry you went through that, but I'm sure you learned some lessons from that somehow.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I do my due diligence, but I check a lot of other things now.
For sure. Well, we are coming up against our very first break, and I can't believe how quickly this is going already. My very special guest is Alan Porter, and we will talk about taking care of your financial situation. His book is called Tax-Free Retirement Solution. We'll talk about that later in the show, and we will talk about how to stop wasting money on our taxes, how to eliminate market risk, how to generate guaranteed lifelong income, and so much more when we come back from the break. This is Success Profiles Radio. Please stay with us. Don't go away. We will return in a moment. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, commercials are playing in the background.
Okay.
So we can talk for a minute or two.
Where are you located at?
I am in Iowa, and I did spend 8 years of my life in Nebraska. I got my master's at Nebraska in Lincoln.
Okay. Well, I'm praying for Nebraska football to come back.
I know you and a lot of other people have. It's interesting. The people that are on that team now weren't even alive the last time Nebraska played for a national title.
But I'm pulling for Nebraska volleyball girls, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think they're going to win it this year.
Oh, I do too. They're just awesome.
I love watching them. Every time they have a match, I make sure I watch them. Even though I'm an Iowa State guy, I mean, I'm glad we have the Big Ten Network here and FS1 and Fox and all that, because I can watch almost every match of theirs if I want to. All the big ones anyway.
Yeah. They've had a bunch of big ones.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. I'm surprised at how, well, I don't want to say terrible, but I've been surprised at how much of a drop-off Penn State had this year.
Yeah. Well, they put it to Nebraska as far as football, that's for sure. So did Iowa.
Yeah.
But that was something last year when they played in the Cornhusker Stadium. back with 92,000 people.
Really have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. My very special guest this week is Alan Porter. And if you have not downloaded and subscribed to Success Profiles Radio on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, please do so. Leave a 5-star review. That would be absolutely fantastic and amazing. So, Alan, I want to ask you, what are some of the biggest financial mistakes you see people making?
Well, first off, invested in a 401k. And people ask me, well, why do you say that, Alan? When I talk to people, I ask them, I said, why do you contribute to a 401k or a qualified plan? And they all say, well, it's a tax deduction, Alan. I said, no, it's not a tax deduction. It's a tax compound. Right now, Brian, we got over a $37 trillion deficit. Our unfunded liabilities are over $217 trillion. And by 2035, it's projected to have a $65 trillion deficit. We can't even pay the interest on that.
Mm-mm.
So what I want to do is I want to work with people that want to be in the same standard of living they are now, or a better standard of living when they go to retire. And, you know, we've been inundated by the propaganda of Wall Street and fee-based advisors. The only way to save for your retirement is through a stock portfolio, 401k, qualified plan, or something like that. Very few people understand. 58% of the people out there, Brian, don't even think there's a fee on their 401k. A 1% fee, yeah, a 1% fee will reduce your income by 1/3 over a 30-year period. Now, the average fee in a 401k, and this is according to Forbes magazine and Lap Times, is over 2.99%. Brian, people are going to be left with half of their money when they go to retire, and they get hit with taxes anywhere from 20 to over 55%. The average 401k only lasts 4 to 7 years. And let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of sequential returns risk?
No.
Well, let me tell you something. It will devastate your retirement. And I've got multimillionaires that their fiduciary fee-based advisors have never told them about any of the risk in retirement, let alone sequential returns risk. But sequential returns risk, I'm going to give you a perfect example. Let's say you're 65 and you go to retire and you got $1 million in your stock portfolio. Now, they used to say a 4% distribution rate was a safe distribution rate to last for 30 years at index for a 3% inflation rate. Well, all my products, all my guaranteed income goes to age 120. But that 4% distribution rate is now down to around 2.8%, I believe. But let's say it's the 4% distribution rate. That's $40,000 a year. Number one, it's not guaranteed. Now, this is what happens with sequence returns. Let's say that you have that $1 million the first year. You take your $40,000 out. The next year, you have a 10% loss. So you went from $1 million to $900,000 minus the $40,000 you took out, minus the fees you pay that financial advisor, whether you make money or not. And then what happens in like 2008 happens again, where we have 38 to 52% loss in the market. You're going to be out of money in the 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
What a sequence returns risk is, Brian, if you have a loss in the first 2 to 3 years of a 10 or 20 year period, as compared to a loss in the last 2 to 3 years of a 10 or 20 year period, you're going to be out of money within the 5th to the 9th year. And people are not prepared for it.
Ooh.
People are not prepared for the other risk in retirement. The number one risk in retirement is running out of money before you run out of life. Longevity risk, which is a risk multiplier. Tax risk, government risk, interest rate risk, market risk, long-term care. I know this has affected me personally because I'm 72. My brother is 3 years older than me. And 2 years ago, the state patrol called his daughter up, said, you need to come pick your father up. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's very, very confused. Well, she went to get him. They picked him up for going down the wrong direction of the interstate. He's lucky he didn't kill himself and somebody else.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Putting a loved one in a nursing home is one of the hardest things you'll ever do.
Mm-hmm.
But I can mitigate or eliminate long-term care risk, which costs between $50,000 to $200,000 a year, for pennies on the dollar with tax-free money, because we get it off the death benefit, which was hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars more than you have in your cash value. But you pay pennies on the dollar for that. It's tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. People are not prepared for. Understand this. 70% of all Americans are going to need long-term care at some point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
40% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 64 are on long-term care right now. And this is an age lab study by Dr. Pokorski at MIT University. If you're married at age 65, there is a 75% chance of you or your spouse contracting Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's. And I know this for a fact. It's happened to 5 of my friends. 2 of them have died already from Alzheimer's, and also my brothers still live in a nursing home. And the longer I live, more of my friends start to succumb to this. And you know, Ryan, what's really bad is the caregiver. Let's say you're married, your wife is your caregiver. Have you ever heard of Medicaid spend down?
No.
Well, let's say you got $2 million in your portfolio for your retirement, and you become afflicted with Alzheimer's, and your wife, your spouse becomes your caregiver. Well, what the government's going to do, they're going to go and confiscate all your assets to pay for your care, long-term care, and your significant other is going to be left with 1 car, 1 house, and approximately $137,000 in a small subsistence allowance. I don't care if you have 10 million or 2 million. People are not prepared for this. Now they can get, eliminated, but the government's got all the ways. You got to do this, do a trust, Medicaid trust, 5 years before something happens. If you do it before, so a year before, it's determined an illegal transaction, and the penalties are very severe. So people, like I said, people have to have a plan. And if they don't have a plan, make one, and you need to improve on it every year.
Absolutely.
But here's a couple of quick stories. This was not my client. This guy had worked at this company. He divorced his wife for over 25 years ago and got remarried. And when he passed away, he did not change the beneficiary forms for his 401k. Guess who got all his money? His ex-wife.
Oh no.
Yep. Another story. A couple had about $5 million. I call them the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. You know, the go-go years is when you first retire, you want to travel, see your grandkids, do everything. But here they were, they're 70 years old. They've got over $5 million in their nest, stock nest, or whatever they've got, assets. But they've got a son, and they're on a trip. They got a son that's 42 years of age, got 4 children, and died of a heart attack in his driveway.
Oh.
Had no insurance. His wife did not work. So what do you think? Where are the kids going to, the grandkids, they're going to come live with the grandmother.
Yeah.
Here's the other one, just like I said before, if you become the caregiver and you've got a great retirement plan and everything is going well, myself, I don't want to go to a VA nursing home. I saw my grandfather in there. I don't want anything like that. I want my home care done in my home by a qualified person, and I don't want that burden put on my wife. But I can do that through cash value life insurance and the death benefit.
Right. Absolutely. So we've got a few minutes left before the break. Should people take Social Security at 62, or should they wait until their proper retirement age?
Well, it all depends. If you need it, you need it. If you don't, I recommend letting it ride until you're age 70, because it increases. I can't remember 6%
It almost
every
doubles.
year.
It almost doubles between 62
Yeah.
and 70 if you wait.
I think it's 8% increase every year. And then, but if you take it at 62 and you work and you make over $17,000 a year, then I think they take $1 back for every $2 you make over your Social Security. So at the least, take it out at your full retirement age.
Yeah.
But if you can leave it till age 70, I took mine out at 65, but I bought a life insurance policy with it.
Yeah.
So at 75,
that's
I'm
great.
done. I can still get all my Social Security from then on, but my death benefit is now like $500,000, and I'm getting tax-free money from my life insurance policy that's paid for.
Yeah. Now, if you are still working at 62 and you decide to take it and they take part of it out, like you said, do they recalculate it later when you actually do stop working?
That's something you'd have to talk to a Social Security expert on.
Got it.
Some cases I've heard, yes, they'll pay it back, but not as much. There's several different cases. There's probably 1,700 different ways to take your Social Security.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. So going to the other side of the spectrum, when is it the best time to talk to your kids about money?
in high school,
Hmm.
grade school. The younger, the better. But it's just like uh, I've got some other things I'll bring up in our next section, but it's all about education.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Because I mean, that was not really talked about in our household. I had no idea how much money my parents made until I was getting ready to see if I could qualify for financial aid for college. And apparently I couldn't qualify financially because my dad had a really good job and my mom
Yeah.
worked too.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any idea, and that was just never talked about. And so it probably is a really good idea. I've had other financial experts who have said, yes, teach your
Well,
children very well as early as possible.
it's just like understand this: a properly constructed cash value life insurance, whether it's whole life or index universal life, does not count against college funding. It is the greatest college funding vehicle available, bar none. It's self-completing. And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say that you had twins or getting ready to go to school, to college in 2009. Well, the market just lost 50%. So you had $100,000 in that 521 plan, or 520 plan, whatever the government plan is. Now you got $50,000. Your whole thing has changed. And very few people understand, Brian, that when you have a 50% loss, it takes a 100% gain just to get back to even.
Yep.
But cash value life insurance, if you pass away, your kids' education is paid for with tax-free money. And there'll be probably hundreds, if not millions of dollars left over.
Yeah,
And you
for
put on your
sure.
kids too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant advice. We are coming up against our next break. My very special guest is Alan Porter, and we're talking about the biggest financial mistakes people have made and stories of people who didn't have life insurance or long-term care insurance. It can get very, very expensive to live life if you don't have those things, if you can qualify for them. And of course, it's always great to talk to your kids about money as soon as possible so that they can be financially educated as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to stop wasting money on taxes, how to create guaranteed long-term, lifelong income, and so much more. We will come back after the break. And of course, we will talk about his book, which is called Tax-Free Retirement Solution. We'll come right back after the break. This is Success Profiles Radio.
Have you ever heard of effective interest cost?
Mm-mm.
I'll bring that up in our next section.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, I have moved home to be with my mom. My dad passed almost 5 years ago, and Alzheimer's does run on mom's side of the family, and she has it, and she'll be 80 in January. So that's why I moved home. And
Yeah.
yeah, very important topic.
Well, people aren't prepared for it. I'll tell you that right now.
No, they're not. And my goal is for her to be here as long as possible.
Yeah.
And my younger sister is disabled. We will be looking for assisted living scenarios very soon for her. So yeah, life is about to get very expensive.
Well, I feel sorry for you.
Well, she has been disabled since 6, so she has never and will never ever qualify for any kind of long-term care insurance. That is has never been an option because no one would take her. So we just, haven't inquired.
Here's the thing about long-term care insurance. You can buy it when you're 50. It's very expensive. And then you can die in your sleep at 75. It's like term life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cash value.
Right. Yeah.
Because you pay it to pay for long-term care. So you die, you're not paying for anything.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know if you're going to end up in a nursing home or not. Or need assistant living or anything like that. Yeah. I'm really hoping that if that moment does come, we can explore home health care first.
Will clearly demonstrate the principles. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. My very special guest this week is Alan Porter, and we are talking about finances and keeping your financial fortress strong against all the things that can come up against it. And if you've not subscribed to Ultimate Achievers Magazine, go to ultimateachieversmagazine.com. You can subscribe there. The first 7 days is only $1. You can pick whatever option you want, and you can read every single issue we've done all the way back to December 2017. I can't believe the 8-year anniversary is this month. How about that? Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank was the very first cover back in 2017. Can't wait for you to take advantage of that. So please do that. UltimateAchieversMagazine.com is where you can go. So, Alan, let's talk about how we can stop wasting money on taxes. There are tax-free investment vehicles that we can use to keep more of what we earn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that pops into everybody's mind is a Roth IRA. Well, the Roth IRA is great. Or now they have the Roth 401k. That's great. And people tell me, well, municipal bonds and educational bonds are tax-free money. I said, no, they're not. Well, what do you mean, Alan? I said, if you buy that educational or municipal bond in a state other than where it's issued, or live in a state other than where it's issued, you have state taxes to pay. If your state is large enough, you have e-state taxes to pay. Understand this. They both affect the taxation of Social Security, the means testing for Medicare Part B, which will be in the thousands of dollars per year. Oh, I understand now. I said, people need to understand how a life insurance policy is constructed. You have two lines now. You have the bottom line, which is set by the actuaries of the insurance company. And I always ask people, I said, would you rather spend $1,000 a year on a $500,000 death benefit or $10,000 a year on a $500,000 death benefit? They all tell me, well, $1,000. I said, that's great. I mean, if you can't afford a cash value life insurance, which is at $10,000, but that's that bottom line, that $1,000, that's determined by the actuaries of the insurance companies. And if you live one day past life expectancy, there's no cash value in that policy.
Right.
I understand all life insurance products are great for the family because they protect the family. But up until the late 1980s, there was no line for the top portion of it. The banks, the people who knew the tax codes, the politicians, they'd put hundreds of thousands, not millions of dollars into a life insurance policy for, say, $500,000. Well, they don't need all that money to fund that policy, but the rest of the money they had in there grew tax deferred, and they got their distributions tax free. The government puts an alarm, no, we can't have this. We're losing too much revenue. So they put a line in there. And if you put more money than what the government allows in a life insurance plan, it becomes a modified endowment contract, an MEC or MEC. And it changes everything. You lose all your tax benefits by our IRS codes 7702 and 70E. But I design all my policies to be maximum efficient contracts. I'll put the least amount of money into insurance and the most amount of money to grow your policy. So let's say you get to life expectancy. If you still have term, you might have as much money in that term policy as you have in the index or whole life policy, which is cash value policy when properly constructed. But now if you live one day past life expectancy, there's no cash value. But if you have a cash value policy, that death benefit may be $1.5 million, and you've got $800,000 or $900,000 that you have to become basically your own bank, buy anything you want to.
Yeah.
And go and think about this. I asked people, I said, okay, what grows tax deferred? Well, my 401k IRA thinks, I said, understand it. Well, certain products, if they're set up in cash value policies, if set up in properly constructed defined benefit plans, is tax deductible. What grows tax deferred? 401k, IRA. Well, so does cash value life insurance. What about tax-free distributions? There's only two financial vehicles that have tax-free distribution. That's cash value life insurance and your Roth products, your IRA or your 401k. And I just explained about municipal and educational bonds. And I'll give you a perfect example. What CPAs and attorneys don't tell their clients about this. The taxation of Social Security, the means testing Medicare Part B. Let's say that you're married at age 65 and you make more than $44,000 a year of outside provisional income. 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxed. And let's say you make $3,000 a month of Social Security. Provided tax rates don't change, that puts you in a 12% minimum tax bracket, 10.13 effective tax bracket, because we have a progressive tax system. Provided taxes don't change, you're writing a check to Uncle Sam for over $6,000 every year, and your means testing Medicare Part B can go up by over 350%. That, Brian, is thousands of dollars per year. You can become your own bank, paying yourself compound interest instead of the financial institutions. Have you ever heard of effective interest cost?
No.
Well, I had a friend of mine. He retired from the military when he was 40 years old, 42, and he wanted to do my tax-free retirement policy. I said, well, how much debt do you have? He said, well, we bought a new house a couple of months ago, a couple of car payments, a loan, and a credit card. I said, what's the interest rate on your house? He said, 2.75. I said, that's great. but what's your effective interest cost on that, Alan? And he said, kind of looked at me. He said, what do you mean? I have no idea. I said, well, don't feel lonely, because 99% of people I talk to, who include CPAs, attorneys, and financial advisors, don't either. But fill out this form. We'll have a Zoom conference the following week. I said, you've got $461,000 in debt. That's not your problem. The problem is the 49.76 effective interest cost you're paying on that 2.75% mortgage. He looked at me like kind of pop-eyed and said, Alan, how's that possible? I said, because it's not going to get down to the 2.75 until the last couple months of the mortgage. He said, man, I kind of think, now I see what you're talking about. I said, you've got a credit card here that's over 90% effective interest cost. And most people, if they're not paying their credit cards off completely, they're paying anywhere from 80 to 95% effective interest costs on that. And I told the guy, I said, even though you've got great credit, your average effective interest cost is over 46%. My next question for him was, what financial vehicle are you investing in that gives you a 46% return on your money? Your 401k or anything else? He said, no. In fact, I lost 10% in my 401k. I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. How long does it take you to pay your bills off the way you're doing it? He said, 20 some years, because we're paying extra on your mortgage. I told him, I said, well, that's great. A lot of people do that. Well, let's take that $1,000 and put in your 401k. And for 10 years, this is a 10-year policy. We're going to put it in this tax-free bucket of money. And at the end of the 10 years, we're going to pay all your debts off 14.17 years faster. There's going to be over $130,000 in a tax-free bucket of money that you become your own bank. You borrow from yourself. You pay yourself back, compounding interest for you and not the financial institutions, and eliminating the effective interest cost you pay on the money you borrow. And also, there's a $400,000 death benefit to protect your family in case something happens to you, car wreck or something like that. Now, understand, you're 52 years of age. You're debt-free. I've just showed you how to become your own bank. Brian, I've done this for a decade and a half. I just bought my wife a new car a couple of weeks ago. And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say I took $50,000, $40,000 out, and I pay $1,000 a month. That's 40 years at $1,000 a month. 40 months at $1,000 a month, paying myself 0% interest. But what I'm doing is I'm paying myself back. So I don't even have to pay the loan back if I don't want to. It just comes off the death benefit, which is hundreds, if not millions of dollars more. But I paid myself back, compounding interest for me. And at the end of those 40 months, now all that money, all those thousands of dollars have compounded, and my cash value continues to grow, and grow. My death benefit does the same thing. I've got 8 life insurance policies on myself and my family. But getting back to what he was saying, he said, Alan, and I said, listen, I'm not done yet. Wait till you're 65. You don't have to do anything except become your own bank, pay yourself back. But by the time you're 65, there'll be almost $250,000 in a tax-free bucket of money that you can use in policy loans that do not affect the taxation of Social Security or the means testing for Medicare Part B. You're protected from lawsuits, liens, and judgments. It avoids probate. Have you ever heard of probate, Brian?
Yes.
Well, many people haven't, but a lot of people remember Prince, the entertainer that died. He was worth tens of millions of dollars. His family's maybe going to get 20 to 25% of that estate because he had no exit plan, no will or trust set up. And what the government does, they'll come and confiscate all your assets, sell them to pay the taxes on your estate. And what's really bad, attorneys get 6 to 12% of that estate for legal fees. So like I said, you've got to plan. So, but I end up telling this guy, by the time you're 65 years of age, you got all those benefits. Now your death benefits over $600,000 that you can use tax-free for long-term care that you paid for pennies on the dollar. And he looked at me and said, Alan, you made a dream of mine come true. Well, why don't people know this? I said, it's not rocket science. It ought to be taught in high school. But I've had college professors with PhD degrees in accounting and finance. I've been asked to teach some of their classes. But this is, like I said, it ought to be taught in high school. It's not rocket science. And everybody needs to know this stuff because it changes their financial future. Cash value life insurance, fixed and fixed index annuities, when properly structured, eliminate or mitigate all the risk in retirement that a stock portfolio, bond portfolio, 401k, money market funds, ETFs only compound. And people don't know this. They tell me, well, Alan, I'm diversified in my stock portfolio. I said, no, if you just got a stock portfolio, you're not diversified. I have people, I'm not against stocks at all.
Mhm.
But when it comes to retirement, it's not about return on your investment. It's about distribution of your assets. I'll give you
Right.
another perfect example. Let's say that you got $1 million in your stock portfolio, again, at that 4% distribution rate. In certain fixed indexed annuities, when properly structured, you'd only need $650,000 of that $1 million to give you the same $40,000 guaranteed for the rest of your life, even if you live to 120. And I don't care if that accumulation value runs out. By contract, the insurance company has to pay you that $40,000. But get a load of this, Brian. You're guaranteed by contract never to have a loss due to money to a market downturn with properly constructed cash value life insurance, whether it's whole life or index universal life, fixed and fixed indexed annuities. Because we're not tied to the market. We use indexing strategies to grow our money. And there's about 178 now, I think, of indexing strategies, such as the Barclays Dynamic Balance Index, the Euro Index, the S&P 500 Index. But we use these strategies. Now, we're not going to get all the gains in the market, but we're never going to have a loss.
Right.
And I'd much rather never have a loss and get 70, 80%, possibly more gains are indexing strategies. But think about this. When you annuitize your money, we'll start taking that $40,000 out at age 65, you still have $350,000 in that market to pay the taxes and make that a Roth. So now you have no required minimum distribution. You understand what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I had a 65-year-old multimillionaire that did not have, I mean, he had $1 million in an IRA. I said, what are you going to do with that? He says, well, I'm going to will it to my grandson. I said, well, you can't do that. He said, what are you talking about? I said, the Secure Act changed all that stuff years ago, 2 years ago. I said, if you pass away, your spouse can pick up that qualified plan, or maybe a disabled person.
Mm-hmm.
But when you pass away, that money has to be spent over a 10-year period and taxed at your beneficiary's tax rates, not yours.
Yes.
Said, well, and then I asked him, I said, what about your required minimum distribution? Now, Brian, he's 65. He had no idea. He's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Well,
he'll find out when he's 73 what that is.
Well, at this time, this was back 2017, before the Secure Act took effect. If you don't take out the required minimum distribution, it's a 50% penalty plus all the taxes. I said, you're going to have less than 5% of your money, because federal tax is almost 40% there, 39.77 or something like that. State tax, 7.5. Now you got IRMA tax, people don't know about. You've got Social Security tax, Medicare Part B expenses. You'll have less than 5%. He said, well, what are you going to do? I said, you're going to pay the taxes on it. Well, I don't want to pay taxes. I said, nobody wants to pay taxes.
Right.
Let's take $200,000 a year for 5 years. It may be more or less that last year. It depends what the market does. But by the time you're 70, you'll have no more RMDs. It'll grow. Now think about this. It's going to grow tax deferred. All your distribution is going to be tax free through your life, through your son's life, and then your grandson's life. And it's millions of dollars. This can be generational income if he manages that money right.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, let's get it done. Let's get it done now.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, after my dad passed, his pension went to my mom, and we learned real quick what RMD meant. In fact, the end of the year is coming up, and I'm going to help mom fill out her forms tomorrow, and we're going to mail that in so she can get her RMD check in a couple weeks. So yes, we do know what that is. And we are coming up against our break. I cannot believe how quickly this is going. Final segment coming. Down the stretch we come when we return. This is Success Profiles Radio. Yes, RMD. I knew what that was. Well, when my dad passed, there was some confusion last year because he passed in 2021. And mom had failed to take the RMD in 2022 and 2023. And we got it all straightened out last year,
Right.
but she got another RMD letter. I'm like, and so we called the company that held my dad's pension. And we said, Mom literally just got a check yesterday and we're getting another RMD letter. What is that for? And they said, oh, well, she didn't take a distribution. Now, is Larry deceased? Yes, he's been gone since 2021. That's what happened. And they had their records like screwed up. And so we figured all that out. And her taxes last year were like way more than they were supposed to, because she was taking 3 RMDs last year instead of only 1.
Okay.
And when I talked to her tax person, I said, now this coming year, it's going to resemble more like 2 years ago. So, because she calculated the quarterly estimate, and I said, no, no, no. Next year is not going to look like this year. It's going to look more like the year before, and here's why. She goes, okay. And so she adjusted the estimate, and so it's much more manageable.
Now, how long is the last section going to be?
Until the top of the hour.
Oh, okay.
We'll be done a couple minutes before the hour's up.
I can do it. Okay. You can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. Down the stretch we come. And once again, if you've not downloaded and subscribed to Success Profiles Radio on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please do that. Leave a 5-star review. You can also hear the show on Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere great shows like this can be heard. So, Alan, let's talk a little bit about your book. It's called Tax-Free Retirement Solution. Why did you write it, and who is it for?
Well, it can be for everybody. I don't care if you're making $50,000 a year or you're making $50 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's all education, and it's what people need because, like I said, 99% of people I talk to don't have any idea what I do for what they know what I do, but they don't understand it. They need to be educated on it. And I'm a certified tax and business advisor. I'm probably one of 200 in the United States, but I'm also a certified financial fiduciary. And I'm very, very passionate about what I do. But what I want to do, basically in a nutshell, I have a team of specialists. And Brian, what I mean by that, let's say that I'm your family doctor. I can treat you for minor illnesses, minor injuries. But if you want your knee operated on, you want the orthopedic surgeon, the specialist, correct? Well, that's what I have on my team. I have tax-specific attorneys and CPAs and other specialists in their fields, and we collaborate to provide solutions for people's financial problems. In a nutshell, what we do, Brian, is we show people how to reduce and possibly eliminate both debt and taxes, possibly set them up with a tax-free retirement, also eliminate or mitigate all the risk in retirement that a stock portfolio only compounds. The other thing I do is I have a preventive health and wellness program that I can explain if we have time. But here's the thing. Think about the taxes that people pay, especially people that I just got with a client tonight. He has to pay $2.1 million in taxes.
Wow.
He had a good year.
He had a very good year.
Yeah. But a client last month was a very successful doctor, sold his practice for like $8.3 million. We're going to get all the taxes paid on that. We're also using a tax strategy this year, and he's recovering almost $2.2 million of taxes that he paid over the last 4 years.
Mm.
And we're turning his 401k. He had $1.4 million of this in his 401k, and we're turning that, we're paying all the taxes and the penalty because he's only 51.
Mm-hmm.
We're turning it in to property construction cash value life insurance in a flex program. And I don't know if we have enough time to tell you about this, but it's one of the greatest financial vehicles I've ever seen in my life. And I only came accustomed to this 2 years ago. Mm. But that's for another conversation. But it makes a difference of tens of millions of dollars of tax-free money for this person and his beneficiaries. Wow. But there's all kinds of strategies out there. And one of the things I really get a kick out of this, because all these affluent clients I have, they're multimillionaires. They say, well, Alan, all my financial advisor, my CPA, my attorney give me all my financial and tax advice. I said, okay, well, first off, I'm not here to replace any of your advisors. I want to work with them as a team to give you the best possible financial scenario. And if they don't want to take my advice, that's your decision. But I think once you hear what I have to say and my team has to say, you're going to like what we have to say. But I have two questions for you. When's the last time any of your financial advisors ever give you any proactive tax advice? It's slim to never, which I found out in 99% of my cases. They're always reactive. Yeah. The CPA wants the proper numbers for your tax returns. Your financial planner wants to find you the best possible financial stock or whatever. Your attorney is concerned with legal documentation. Mm-hmm. And I have one last question for him. I said, you may have the greatest advisors in the world, but it's what they don't know that's going to end up costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and undue taxes, fees, and lost opportunity costs. And they all agree with me. They say, well, Alan, what do you mean by lost opportunity cost? I said, what if I could show you a tax strategy that you can receive taxes back that you would already pay to? And you can have tax-free money that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement paid for by tax strategies that I did for you, recovering past taxes. Is that something you'd like to know about? He said, God, Alan, I'd love to help. How do you do that? I said, it's not how I do it. It's who I know that knows how to do it. And they're all part of my team.
That's absolutely amazing. So the tax code was written to reward certain activities such as buying a business, buying property. What else does the tax code reward? I know we talked about shielding tax money in life insurance, but what does the tax code do? How can we use the tax code to avoid taxes?
Well, as I said before, well, not NEST program, but other program, the tax codes are just a limit on a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I go up to the limited benefit. I don't work in a gray area. It's all black letter law. But it's just like cash value life insurance. It's one of the greatest tax vehicles, avoidance vehicles, by IRS codes 7702 and 70E, because all your distributions are tax-free. It is the greatest wealth transfer vehicle available today, bar none, as I explained in that one case. You become your own bank. But the taxes, people don't understand. When they go, man, I got $1 million in my 401k. I'm set for my retirement. Like I told this one guy, you got $1 million in your highest tax bracket. You don't have $1 million. I said, you got a partner in this. He said, what are you talking about? I said, you got Uncle Sam and you're in the 40% tax bracket. That $1 million is now worth $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
But there's many tax strategies out there that people aren't aware of. You know, like solar programs. Let's see. What was the other one I did? Here, I just did it last week. It's a charitable donation, but you put money in a charity, and you're going to get tax deduction for that. It's a 5-to-1 benefit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy we just got through talking to here a couple of days ago. He's got a 210% return on his money.
Mm.
It's a leveraged charitable donation, is what it's called. But there's other things out there that if you got the right people, and I have the right people on my team, I'm with Excel Empire and the tax strategy team, and also Desert Rose Capital and the Flex program. And I think I've probably got one of the best teams. I'm very, very passionate about what I say. I think I got one of the best financial teams in the nation.
Yeah.
Because I'm an expert when it comes to fixed and fixed index annuities. Now, I do not deal with variable annuities because they're tied to the market and the fees are very high.
Yeah.
But cash and cash value life insurance from property construction. But I have all these other people, these specialists, and we, like I said, we collaborate to come up with strategies for people, tax strategies, tax planning, tax saving, asset protection.
Yeah.
Charitable gifting. People have no idea about charitable gifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them, I said, when I interview people, I asked them, I said, are you charitably inclined? And many of them say, well, no. I said, you're really charity inclined because you're giving $40,000 a year and you're only making $150,000 a year. You're getting $40,000 away in taxes. So you're charitably inclined.
Yeah.
Would you like to find out how to get some of that back?
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking to millionaires.
Right.
They know charity can be a great thing. But you can become educated in this stuff.
Yeah.
And learn these things, but you need to talk to somebody that's educated and talk to an expert in the field.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, you can get yourself in a world of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And once again, the book is called Tax-Free Retirement Solution. You can find it on Amazon. And if someone is in their 50s or 60s right now, is it too late?
No, Brian, I did not buy my first life insurance policy till I was 58.
Wow.
And in fact, my wife, she was a contracting officer, Special Warfare Center out here at Fort Bragg. And I took her TSP, like a qualified plan for government employees. And I paid the taxes on it and turned it into a life insurance policy. Now I'm 72. 2 years ago, I could have taken our policies. I have 5 index universal life policies. We could have taken those 5 index universal life policies, and I could have started taking income out of over $100,000 a year of tax-free money, plus our death benefits and the millions of dollars to protect us for long-term care risk or become a legacy for my family. But the other thing too, I have 3 other policies. They're whole life policies. I have 2 for my granddaughters that the mother passed away for their college education. And I have 1 for myself to show my clients my debt-free retirement plan, my debt-free for life program.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's the greatest financial vehicle available out there. That nothing that even compares to it.
Absolutely. We've got maybe 3 or so minutes until the end. I want to ask you, what are the top core values you run your company by?
Integrity.
Hmm.
I'm very, very passionate about what I do. I always, everything I put is in numbers. It's scientifically, economically, and mathematically proven. It's not my opinion. I have my opinion on everything. So does everybody else. But when it comes to opinion on money matters, I go with the guarantees.
Yeah, absolutely. What has surprised you the most about your journey?
The lack of knowledge people have. They have no idea of what goes on. I mean, like I said, I teach people to think outside the box, conventional financial planning, and create a paradigm shift in their thinking on conventional financial planning. And I want to show them, just like I said before, the strategies the wealthy and the banking institutions have been using for years to create their wealth.
Great. And the question that I ask almost everybody toward the end, who inspires and motivates you?
Well, I hate to tell you this, but the death of my daughter-in-law and the health condition of my family.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How can we find you? How can we learn more about you and possibly even talk to you if we want to?
Well, my telephone number is 910-551-1046. My website is www.strategicwealthstrategies.com. I've got a plethora of information on it. I have a YouTube channel that has over 500 videos. I've been published in over 1,568 publications across the United States.
Wow.
I've been published in 9 books now. I've had 2 international bestsellers when I first started. Those were co-authored. But my latest best-selling is, like I said, like you said, Tax-Free Retirement Solution. And everything that I said tonight, you can find in that book.
Yep.
You can go on my website and get a appointment with me. Now, understand this. I do not charge for my consultations. It's all about education because everybody needs to hear what I have to say. And then my website, my email address is strategicwealth0@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Alan, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. This was a very informative session, and I wish you very, very well. Thank you for being here.
Well, I very much appreciate it. And anybody out there, like I said, I don't charge my consultations. Give me a call.
Fantastic. And thanks to all of you for listening. This has been Success Profiles Radio. Join us every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where I interview another world-class achiever, learn what they did, what they overcame, and the lessons we can learn. And we can learn a lot from what we heard tonight. Thanks for joining us. Until next week, take care, everyone. Goodbye. Awesome. We are done. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. I hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It was very, very fun. And if you want to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, iTunes, I would love that very, very much. And I think the replay should be available sometime this week, and I will let you know.
Okay. Well, you have a great night.
All right, you too. Thanks. Bye.